for development. We think we took it by answering two simple questions, and the third thing I'll talk about is technicality, and I promise that will be brief because it's a little bit too bitchy. The first question is, where do we provide a better quality of life? And this is where we really catch them and call them on it for calling being a beggar a wonderful way to live a life. Being blinded by the bright lights of the city, somehow spellbound in your alcoholic days. We think it's important to be critical. Is that fun? Is that fair? Or are you going to freeze in the cold on the street and be swept by the dumpster? We think it's important to note that that's not what we see as a standard of life. We never wanted to see that again. They wanted to make a public spectacle of it, where if you see them, money will come from donations, and that would be sustainable. Right. Donor fatigue, we said that. We said that there would be a problem because it's not going to happen. People are eventually going to stop putting their money in there. And the cycle of organized crime will continue to turn people off to even going to those places, which even kills the city's industries. We don't understand where they're coming from when they want to envision a better world. But really, if what we want is simple, to have them inside the state system and working with the state. If they don't want it, we reject them, but we think it's so enticing that we won't have to reject them. We don't know where they come in challenging our model without giving an appropriate step-by-step solution on their model. We don't think that they know what to do either. They're complacent in being able to expect people to have a nice time being drunk on a side street. But the second question is, how will you entice individuals to even leave the cities? And this is where that entire debacle about urban and rural development comes into play. Look, we've said simply that manpower is one of the first steps to urbanization. We want to make sure that it looks viable in terms of employees to even have a new building outlet industry in a rural community. But for urban development, that's already a lie. We already see that those dreams don't come to fruition, and all you have are favelas in Brazil, and all you have are people who are going to enter the cycle of organized crime. We did talk about exploiting desperation. We said desperation was the key element that all these beggars have, which make them neat and easy prey for all of these syndicates. By the way, Zamboanga City, where Sharmila comes from, and Cebu City are these examples which we already mentioned, as well as Davao, where rural development was done specifically with regard to the population density that was experienced in Manila. That's why we have the guts to talk about it. It is a current existing case in our country. We thought you knew about it. You talked about Manila. But the last thing I'll say, very simply, is that most of the material came from the whip. Clarification and material came in the form of spins, and we didn't appreciate the value-neutral, slightly canned argumentation from first speaker and dangerous, borderline dependent argumentation coming from second speaker. It's not very fun being bitchy about things like that, but when beggars are the debate, when the problem is imminent and there are terrible questions of image and reputation that are flouted about in debate, we don't really think that's the central problem. We think that the problem is the lack of humanization that these people experience, which lead them to the cycle of being beggars and rejecting the state. We're tired of that, and we're tired of dog curry. We've had enough and we're full.
Cheers. Cheers. Cheers.